Hi there. Today we are going to discuss how to divide fractions mentally, specifically dividing a whole number by a unit fraction. Let's go over some important vocabulary. A unit fraction is a fraction that has a numerator of 1. For example, 1/2, 1/3, or 1/4. A quotient is the answer to a division problem. The dividend is the number that is to be divided up in a division problem. The divisor is the number that we are dividing by in a division problem. For example, 12 divided by 2 equals 6. 12 is the dividend, 2 is the divisor, and the answer to the division problem is 6, which is the quotient. Our first problem, we are going to divide 8 by 1/3. So in essence, we want to know how many times will 1/3 fit into 8, or how many 1/3s can I fit into 8 wholes? So how many groups of 1/3 does it take to make one whole? If you answered 3, you are correct. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3, which equals one whole. So if it takes 3 groups of 1/3 to make one whole, how many groups of 1/3 do you need to make 8 wholes? So we have 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, so that's 3/3, that equals a whole. 3 more thirds would be 6/3, which equals 2 wholes. 9/3 would equal 3 wholes. 12/3 would equal 4 wholes. 15/3 would equal 5 wholes. 16, 17, 18/3 would equal 6 wholes. 21/3, and then we have 24/3, which equals 8 wholes. So the answer is 8. It would take 24/3 to equal 8 wholes. You also can reword it and say that 1/3 will fit into 8 24 times. Here's a shortcut. When dividing a whole number by a unit fraction, you can multiply the denominator by the dividend to get the quotient. So we can take the same problem, 8 divided by 1/3, we can multiply 8 by 3 and we get 24. And that is the same answer that we got in using the first strategy. Let's try another. Let's take a look at problem number 2, 9 divided by 1/2. We are trying to figure out how many halves will fit into 9. So let's start with the question, how many groups of 1/2 does it take to make one whole? If you answered 2, you are correct. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 2 halves, which equals one whole. Think about it. If it takes 2 groups of 1/2 to make one whole, how many halves do you need to make 9 wholes? 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 2 halves, which equals one whole. 4 halves equals 2 wholes. 6 halves equal 3 wholes. 8 halves equals 4 wholes. 10 halves equals 5 wholes. 12 halves equals 6 wholes. 14 halves equal 7 wholes. 16 halves equal 8 wholes. and 18 halves equal 9 wholes. So it takes 18 halves to make 9 wholes. So the answer to the question is 18. 9 divided by 1/2 is 18. Now, let's use our shortcut strategy. And remember our shortcut, when dividing a whole number by a unit fraction, you can multiply the denominator by the dividend to get the quotient. So if we take 9 and we multiply that by 2, we get an answer of 18. And that is the same answer that we got in using the first strategy. Problem number 3, we're going to jump straight to the shortcut, 10 divided by 1/4. And here's another situation where my dividend is a whole number and my fraction, the divisor is a fraction. So in that situation, you can multiply the dividend by the denominator of the divisor. So 10 times 4 equals 40. So the answer to the problem is 40. 10 divided by 1/4 equals 40. So you can think about that mentally. If 1/4 will go into 1 whole 4 times, and you have 10 wholes, then 10 times 4 is 40. Problem number 4, using the shortcut. 12 times 3 equals 36. So 12 divided by 1/3 equals 36. Problem number 5. 3 divided by 1/5. Think about it. How many times does 1/5 fit into 1 whole? It takes 5 1/5s to fit into 1 whole. So 5 times 3, because you have 3 wholes, would be 15. 3 times 5 equals 15. 3 divided by our unit fraction of 1/5 is also 15. Problem number 6, 15 divided by 1/6. We would multiply 15 times 6, which equals 90. So the answer, 15 divided by 1/6 equals 90.